Even if you don't want to be a digital accessibility tester forever, like that's not your career, like ultimate goal, accessibility testing is an opportunity to get your foot in the door. And once your foot's actually in the door with a company, it's much, much easier later to transition into a new role, a new career path like HR or cybersecurity, even IT support or customer support. The Certified Accessibility Tester program is a vocational rehabilitation job training program that results in 2 certifications. And if you get trained, you get certified, you get a job. That is the opportunity of digital accessibility testing. To learn more and find out if you qualify for the CAT program, go to accessibilityofficer.com.
Hello, and welcome to episode 144 of the Eyes Free Sports podcast. My name is Greg Lindberg. Here on this episode, we are chatting with a gentleman from Missouri, and I would consider him now a longtime beat baseball player. Has now played with multiple teams in beat baseball. He's also a business owner and a fellow podcaster in the blind sports arena. So let's go ahead now and dive into episode 144 of the Eyes Free Sports podcast. Okay, so here on this episode of the podcast, I would like to welcome Chad Dillon, aka Walk-Off Chad Dillon. Chad is a longtime beat baseball player, also hosts a podcast on beat baseball that we'll definitely get into. And I know just a long-time adaptive athlete and ambassador for adaptive sports. Chad, welcome to Eyes Free Sports.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Really happy to be here. Fellow podcaster.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was thinking earlier today, there's not too many. There definitely are like a fair amount of blindness-related podcasts out there, but as far as blind sports, there are just a few of us. So really awesome to have you on here.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Awesome. All right. So why don't we just kick things off here with just kind of your background, Chad, just as far as your formative years?
Cool. Well, I grew up in a small town, DeSoto, Kansas. It's between Lawrence and Kansas City, Kansas. And I'm 48 years young, so I've got quite the history, but, small little, suburban town. A lot of friends involved in scouting. That was a big part of my life. I was very involved in scouting. I'm an Eagle Scout. I spent summers at camp staff. I even ended up working for the Boy Scouts after I graduated college, but played a lot of sports, played a lot of baseball, played a lot of soccer. In high school, I was a 4-year letterman in track and 2 years in cross country, really active, anything I could do outside, I was going to be outside. So whether it was sports or camping or just fishing in general, just a kind of an outdoorsman, I guess.
Nice. Always in your blood from the beginning. It sounds like great.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I got a Nintendo when like the first Nintendo. I think when I was in middle school or high school, I definitely played some games at night, but I wasn't, I was definitely outside more than I was inside.
Sure. Very cool. And then as far as your visual impairment, talk to me about your vision loss journey and your condition. For
sure. So, growing up, I was severely myopic, which meant I had really thick glasses, like Coke bottle glasses. And the greatest thing for me was in 9th grade when my parents got contacts for me, and they were super expensive. Back then, they're probably like $500 an eyeball or something. I don't know, but it really helped me out. I told you I played all the sports and everything I could outside, but with big old glasses that I would always break or would lose or whatever. So, being able to wear contacts really kind of opened more things up for me, allowed me to be more outgoing because I was kind of shy with the glasses. I know folks aren't going to believe that, but it's true. Before the contacts, I was pretty shy, just big old glasses on your face, and 4 eyes and all the names that people call you, different stuff like that. So that was a big part of it. But I always had bad night vision and never really knew why. Doing scouting things, ghosts in the graveyard, different nighttime games. I lost those horribly, and I thought everyone else could see the way I could see. I used to go to the bars and stuff in college and be like, what? I can't see anyone. I would get lost. I'd lose my friends. I'd have to walk around the bar listening to voices, see if I could hear my friends' voices. Because for me, it was just shadows. Everybody was just shadows. And I thought, this is how it is for everyone. And at 23 years old, I went in to get LASIK surgery, and they said, "Hey, you have retinitis pigmentosa, and you're going to go blind in the next 10 years." And I was just there by myself at a pre-op appointment. Like, wait, what? Like, just it was the most shocking news. Now, I'd always had bad eyes. There was always something a little bit off with my eyes, but at no point did I have a clue, or anybody around me have a clue, that I had a degenerative eye disease. There's no history in my family. There's no track record of anything like RP. So we didn't even know what RP was until that day, and a few internet searches. So yeah, that's when I found out. 23, 48 now. I've had I don't know if there's a version of mild RP, but I didn't really give up driving my car fully until maybe 2017. 40 years old basically. Maybe that was a year or two too late. I didn't get in any massive car accidents or anything crazy. I wasn't a horrible driver, but I was very, very nervous and very like driving like a grandparent maybe, where you're anxious all the time and nerves. And I just knew it was time. And it was right. I went and got checked out, and they said, yeah, you're definitely below 20 degrees. You need to stop driving. So.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yep.
So then I'm curious today, how would you kind of describe your vision?
I tell people it's like looking through stained glass. Like there's not really any darkness. Your brain is too smart for that. Our brains are smarter than we ever thought they could possibly be. It's filling in all the gaps. It's coloring in the blank spaces. And so, it's like looking through stained glass. So things are warped and different shapes that I know that are not those shapes sometimes. But my acuity is starting to go too. I used to be able to read my phone pretty well. I didn't have voiceover on till the last couple of years. I didn't use a cane at first. I didn't probably start using a cane till 4 or 5 years ago. And a lot of that was just so I didn't have to talk about it, so people could see the cane and just know. So it's been real slow. Like I said, I have enough vision to be dangerous, is what I tell people all the time. I can see right up to the point where I can't. And this is kind of how it works for me. So, it's not a bad place to be vision loss wise, but I'm still kind of in the middle, the gray area.
Sure. Yeah. And it is interesting. I also have a retinal condition as well. And there's so much variation when it comes to, degenerative retinal conditions, whether it's RP, LCA. It really is so interesting how everyone has their own unique journey.
Yeah. I've never met anyone who has RP who's my age and can see like I can see. So it's very interesting. So
then in terms of your education and your career, anything you'd like to mention on those fronts?
Sure. I went to college. I went to a few different colleges. Believe it or not, I like to have fun in school, and I partied a little bit. So I went to, I'm a huge University of Kansas fan. Anybody knows that? What most folks don't know is I only spent about a year at the University of Kansas, and then they politely asked me to take a break, and I did. I went to Johnson County Community College, where I got an associate's degree in business, and then I had the opportunity to go back to KU, but at the time there was another option where I didn't have to take business calculus to get a business degree, and I didn't have to take 4 semesters of foreign language for a liberal arts degree. So I went to another university called Washburn University in Topeka, Kansas, and I got a dual major in finance and management, and so pretty excited about that. And then I got a job straight out of college working for the Boy Scouts of America. I think I told you Eagle Scout, and we can talk about my Eagle Scout project here in a second, but summer camp staff, all that for many years. I knew the Boy Scouts had a professional side, and the professional side was really focused on recruitment and fundraising. And those were a couple things that I really fell in love with, was getting kids and their families excited about joining Scouts, and then fundraising. I became very, very good at fundraising for the Boy Scouts, and was promoted pretty quickly because of it. So I worked for the Boy Scouts for almost 10 years and got moved to St. Louis, Chicago, Peoria, Illinois. So kind of moved up the ranks pretty quickly. And then my vision loss started to become an issue. Like driving started to become an issue, driving at night for sure. And it started to become noticeable. I spent years hiding my RP, hiding my vision loss, not talking about it. because I was afraid to get fired. Well, once it became visible, once people kind of started to know there was a problem, I did have a person who I worked for who decided that maybe having me on his staff wasn't the best idea. Maybe he thought I was getting in a car accident or something. I don't know. Either way, I don't work for the Scouts anymore after about 10 years. At this point, I'm planning. I say, okay, I know this is happening. I have to confront this. So what do I do? So I started working in property management, where I knew I wouldn't have to drive for my job. But I didn't really think about the idea of like walking apartments or like assessing fees, because I did student housing. So it's funny how I thought of the first part of not driving, but I didn't think about like a big other part of the job, which is actually seeing damage that's done to your apartments and assessing fees. So that only lasted a few years, and then I became legally blind in 2017, and I decided to join the Business Enterprise Program. So I'm a proud business owner in the Business Enterprise Program, the Randolph-Shepard Act. Actually, I just took over my second business. My first one is a very successful convenience store in the National Personnel Records Center. And as of this week, actually, I am now the owner of another facility that is in a postal distribution center that I've got like 30 some odd vending machines. And so I'm excited to kind of start this new adventure in the BEP.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty involved in ACB, the American Council of the Blind, and I know they have the Randolph-Shepard group. And I do know a lot of folks, that have done really well for themselves with that. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of something I said, you know what, I'm going to do this until I can get back in a nonprofit and fundraise again. And 7 years later, I'm still doing it. So at this point, I think this is it. I think I've enjoyed it. I've excelled at it. It gives me the opportunity to be my own boss, to be successful, to play beat ball, to do the things that I want to do.
Nice. Awesome. So in terms of adaptive sports, definitely curious kind of how you first found out about, adaptive sports. I know we all kind of have our unique introductions to it, seeing it on the news or reading about it or word of mouth. So how did it happen for you?
So in 1994, when I was 16 years old, I was getting ready to work on my Eagle Scout project, and the project that I wanted to do wasn't going to be able to happen in the time I needed to happen. So I was presented the idea of building beep baseball bases with the Southwestern Bell Pioneers in Kansas City. So if you followed my timeline earlier, in 1994, I did not know I had retinitis pigmentosa. So I put together my Eagle Scout project. I still actually have the book and the plans and all that stuff. Got a bunch of kids together, came together on 2 Saturdays in April, and completed my Eagle Scout project by doing 100 hours of community service, building, I believe we built 12 sets of bases, so 24 total bases. And that is how I was introduced to beep baseball. So now... Wow. Yeah.
So ironic.
Crazy. So now let's fast forward to 2017 when I become legally blind and I open a case with Rehab Services for the Blind here in Missouri. And I'm meeting with my counselor, a gentleman who is named Steve Schnell, and he's actually passed away. God rest his soul. But he, in one of our meetings, says, "Hey, me and some guys, we play beep baseball down at this at Afton every Tuesday night in the summer at the sports complex." And I was like, "Really?" And I was so excited because I hadn't even thought about beep baseball in 20 years, at least. So he invited me out. I went out, had fun, kind of reconnected with the game. And before long, some of the guys are talking about the team called the Firing Squad. And so I'm starting to learn a little bit about that. And I get connected with a local nonprofit called Mind's Eye Radio because they put on a fundraiser that's beep baseball related. And so I go to that. I meet a gentleman named Jason Frazier. I meet Nick Silver. All of a sudden, I'm in it, man. And next thing you know, Nick and I are putting together a team for the ultimate beep baseball fundraiser that Jason's putting on. Next thing you know, Jason and I connect, and we're making friends, and we're talking about this. And I'm meeting the Blumenthal family. I meet Rich Crussell, and we're like, let's do this. Let's put together a team. So in 2019, we started working together on putting together the Gateway Archers.
Wow. Amazing. I still can't get over that story. Just with the Eagle Scout, 23 years later, and you never know how life can unfold, and just kind of connections to the past. Really fascinating.
It's amazing. And, sometimes, Greg, I feel guilty is not the right word. Sad, maybe. Obviously, I started the game at an advanced age. And,
Sure.
I think about, man, I've known about RP since I was 23. What if I had tried to play with the Kansas All-Stars or something like that? Because I went back and kind of looked at the teams at the time or stuff like that. Not that they would have had me. I wasn't an All-Star, but I was young and fast and strong and all those things. So you just kind of wonder, a little bit of what if, I think, is the best. I mean, everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that. God has a plan for all of us. So I don't like to question that, but you just kind of like, man, what if I'd had 10 more years? What if I'd started 10 years earlier instead of when I was 40 and stuff like that?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, in my case, I was like 25 when I first played. To me, that was, looking back, it's like, man, I could have been 15 or 10 or when I so it's like, I guess I don't feel too bad then. So,
yeah.
Considering your
perspective, my friend, perspective.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yup.
Yeah.
So let's dive into your beat baseball career and just kind of wherever you could, kind of want to start with your first tournament, your first experience there.
My first tournament was the 2020 Invitational. If folks remember, that was the year that the World Series was canceled. So the Indy Thunder had a 12-team Invitational. And since we'd put all the energy and effort through Mind's Eye and our partners to build the team, we were invited to go. And our first game was against the Indy Edge.
Yep.
I got to be the first at bat, and first or second pitch, I hit a bomb right down because I'm a lefty, so I hit a bomb right down the right field line, and I think it curved foul, but it was still good because it curved foul past 100 feet, and I scored. The funny thing about that is I did not run. Like if you go back and look at the video, I hit the ball and I just stand there. And they're like, run, because they're like, I didn't know. I mean, I should have known. I knew, but you just didn't think it was going to happen that quickly. So I got to be the first run scored for the Gateway Archers in 2020. So I'm never going to forget that moment. That was the highlight of that weekend because we didn't win a game. We were a brand new team, didn't know what we were doing.
Sure.
But we scored a run. So that was cool. And, finished in ninth in our first World Series in 2021 in Wichita. That was amazing. For a brand new team to show up to the World Series for the first time and break into the top 10, that should not have happened. Well, I don't ask me how it happened, but it happened. So that was cool. So some really cool stuff. I think the highlight of my beat baseball career had to come in the Sooner State Invitational in 2024. Up to bat, tie game, championship Sunday, game on the line against the Heat. I hit a ball. It was, in my mind, it was like this great hit. It was not a great hit. It was a blooper to the middle of the field at probably 65, 70 feet. But it was a really wet field, and the defense struggled, and I was able to get to the base in just under 12 seconds. I'm joking. It was faster than that, but it felt like 12 seconds.
Right.
And my teammates mobbed me. You get that mob, and then you realize that you just won the championship for your team, and you get to hold the trophy. And it was a great day. I was 4 for 5 that day. I got a couple put out, so it was
nice.
it was a highlight game for me for sure.
Yo, very cool. And just in terms of your Archer's career, any other moments, any other, teammates that you want to shout out, or just experiences that come to mind?
I mean, all the teammates I've had, honestly, and I've had a few. The Archers have had, a lot of growth and a lot of challenges and a lot of ups and downs, and I got to be there for all of it. I mean, to be a captain on that team, to be a leader, to be able to get to play the game that I had learned about when I was a kid. And, there's just so many cool memories, and I've developed lifelong friendships. I mean, Jason Frazier is one of the coolest guys I've ever met. And I would say that we're extremely good friends and close friends now, even though, I wear red now, I wear a different team color, and our friendship survived a lot of tough things in the last year. And so, man, but everybody, I have a lot of respect for Orlando. Mike Curtis, to go from being the coach to the GM to the pitcher, like all the different machinations there, and just the cool folks I've met. I love, that I've got to know Ethan Johnston and Richie Crussell and Demo, Demetrius Moro. Like I've got so many cool friendships from this deal, and people that I don't talk to every day, but you can call and text them, even though we're not on the same team, once or twice, a month or so, or more often. And it's like nothing changed.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, definitely big shout out to Mind's Eye Radio. They've been a supporter of this podcast now for a while, streaming it on their station. So like you said, Jason Frazier, just the whole team there, in addition to Adaptive Sports, I know they do a lot of audio describe shows and sports, and are just so involved in the community in so many different ways. And honestly, I kind of wish I lived in that area just because of all the cool stuff going on there.
Well, let me tell you, man, the St. Louis has some greater St. Louis area has some unbelievable resources for the blind and visually impaired. Going back to 2016, 2017, I knew that I was becoming legally blind. So what I did was I started reaching out to all of the local agencies. And I said, hey, this is in my future. Teach me, what do I need to know? What do I need to learn? How do I need to operate to be able to continue to work and thrive? And one of the CEO of a place called Starcloth Disability Institute took me to Mind's Eye and introduced me to the team over there. And Jason wasn't the CEO yet, but I sat down with his entire team, and I met everybody and talked to them. And the thing that drew me to that organization, because I wanted to volunteer with an organization, nonprofit work is in my blood, and fundraising, and that what drew me to that organization was that they were actually providing a quality of life service for the blind and visually impaired. Most blind and visually impaired agencies are there to provide basic services for folks. But this was one agency where I could go to a Cardinals game. I could go to a play. I could go to the symphony. You can go to all these different places in town, and you can be a part of what's going on by having audio description. So I was so excited because I was like, this is what I want. I don't need help learning how to use a cane. I don't need help learning how to cook or some of the basic things that some folks need. And I'm not disparaging those folks. I just didn't need any of that. I needed help to live my life and have fun. I had two little girls. I had two daughters. And how do I keep doing fun things with them? And I get to still be a part of the action. And Mind's Eye was the bridge. And so that's why I got involved with them. I've served on the board. I've been a donor and a fundraiser for them, and I will continue to be a sponsor and a supporter of that organization, even if I'm not on their beat ball team, because that's how amazing of an organization they are.
Absolutely. That's amazing to hear. And also I definitely have to mention Megan Harms, who's done a lot with audio description there. She's been a big help to myself and this organization here in Florida. We're trying to get a lot of audio description now for sports. So she's just been a huge supporter, such a great resource for us on that effort as well. So definitely wanted to mention her too.
She's amazing. My only thing with Megan is that she has an unhealthy obsession with Fredbird. So like she'll be calling games, and I go to as many of the audio described Cardinals games as they have. And if Fredbird's within, like, I don't know, 30 yards of her, like whatever she's doing stops, and she's completely focused on Fredbird and what he's doing, and she's a huge fan of Fredbird. It's quite amusing, honestly. It brings something to the description because it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool little story there. Yeah. So I know you did mention that you did transition to a new beat ball team. If you just want to talk about that, kind of that experience and what led you to them.
For sure. So, last fall, I knew that I was probably going to be playing with a different team this next summer, just because maybe I needed a break. They needed a break. I'm a lot, as most folks know. So, I was looking at a couple different teams. A person that I had grown to know over the last few years is a person that I affectionately call Oklahoma Chad, and his name is Mark Ivy. I did not invent Oklahoma Chad. That was someone else. I just heard about it and was like, and at first I was offended. I'm gonna be honest. At first I was offended when he found out he was offended, and then you kind of get to know each other. You're like, no, I'm not offended at all. This is great. So I'd kind of got to know him. We got to play together at the Tyler tournament last October. I got to play with him, and I got to hit off Tim. I get to meet Aaron Higbee, and so as I was looking at teams that I wanted to be a part of, looking at a brand new team that's only been around a couple of years, that's wanting to take that next step, it was a good fit. I was able to come in, help out. I've given them some ideas, talked to them about some of the things that we went through in transitioning the archers from recreational to competitive, and it's been a lot of fun. So get to be kind of in a leadership role there, which is something that appeals to me. Get to kind of coach and give some guidance and support. Was able to help plan practices and kind of help them do some of the basic things. Like, this is what should be happening at a practice. Like, practices aren't all about hitting. There's a lot of defensive work, and talking to them about defensive alignments and all this sorts of fun things. So it's really been exciting for me because I get to use a lot of the knowledge that I picked up over the years and kind of put it to good use. And with folks who are eager, like I said earlier, to be successful, to be competitive. And so that's been a lot of fun, picking up other players, Josh Perry and Marquez this year. I mean, that's awesome, and that just speaks to what Mark Ivy's and the Oklahoma Lookouts have got going on down there, that people want to be a part of their team. And having a Hall of Fame pitcher like Tim is you can't ask for much more than that. So, it's been a lot of fun. We did a big weekend practice. We brought everybody to St. Louis this winter. They're not a team that was used to practicing in the winter, or the early spring, whatever. And so we kind of made sure that each month we had something big going on, so we could just develop our skills and get to know each other and really kind of come together as a team. And man, I'm excited because I honestly believe that we're a top 10 team, and I'm just looking forward to showing the league that at the World Series this summer.
Right. Absolutely. Very cool. And speaking of the World Series, so this episode should be dropping, I believe, about 2 weeks or so, maybe 10 days before the series kicks off. So what are you kind of looking forward to most in the series this year?
I think this is the first year that I'm coming into the series as the podcast host, as the voice, if you will, and all that. So, I'm looking forward to some of that. I'm really excited to meet the Taiwan team, to see the Taiwan team, hopefully play against the Taiwan team. I have not had that opportunity. I was not playing 7 years ago when they were last at a World Series. So that's going to be kind of cool. This is the second year in the St. Louis area. We're at a different location, but, the same grass, basically the same people that grew the grass at Slice are growing the grass at Glen Ed West. So, the Mind's Eye and Lighthouse for the Blind St. Louis put on a good show. So, yeah, my big thing this summer is going to be helping my team finish in the top 10, and then meeting the folks from Taiwan.
Nice. Yeah, I know when I heard that they were finally coming back after all those years, it was just super exciting to see that. And I also definitely wanted to mention Bob Costas, a legendary sportscaster. I know has kind of become an ambassador here of late for Beatball, which is just so incredible to see.
Well, yeah, I mean, we get to tie a couple things we've already talked about back together. Bob Costas, one of the original volunteers at Mind's Eye Radio in the 1970s. Who would have thunk it? So you see the picture of him, and he's a young guy, and then getting to hear him kind of redo the call with David Benny for my winning run last year, on the promo video. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So when I remember when Jason called me and told me it was happening, I didn't say anything to anybody because I didn't believe it, first of all. And then it finally came out, and it's just so cool. I mean, He really does. He really does care. I've not got to meet him in person, but you can just tell in the last 2 years by the interest he's shown, his willingness to record some of the things. I know he really wanted to be with us this summer, but his job's getting in the way. Imagine that.
Yep.
But man, it would be so cool to actually have him at a game at some point, and so he can witness it, in person. And how cool would it be to have him sitting, doing some of the voice work on one of those games? Maybe we'll have to see what he's doing on October 3rd for the Ultimate Beatball Tournament.
Oh yeah, I just get chills kind of imagining that, to be honest. I mean, someone of his stature that's been around just forever, and his connection to baseball is pretty deep. So just incredible to have him kind of in our back pocket here.
Yeah, it's really neat.
So as far as other adaptive sports, have you had the chance to try blind hockey, goalball, soccer, anything else?
Well, during the pandemic, I when most of us were at home and I couldn't go to work because nobody was there, I started running with the Achilles International St. Louis chapter and got involved with that. The farther I've run one half marathon. I have decided that before I turn 50 years old, which is closer than I would like to admit, I'm gonna run a marathon. I don't know when. It's probably be here in St. Louis.
Very cool.
But so that's been kind of cool. Because of my ties with the Archers and Achilles, got tied in with the Blind Blues, the Blind Hockey Club here in St. Louis. I tried it a couple times. They got me out there a couple times. It was fun. I don't have that innate love for hockey. I think it's because I grew up in Kansas and we didn't have a hockey team.
Right.
And stuff. So it's fun. It's a good workout, but it just wasn't something that that caught my heart. Like if I was free, if I didn't have, my kids every other weekend, stuff like that. Like, I think, maybe I would be more into doing that stuff, but it always seemed like the practices were on Sunday nights or Saturday mornings, or, I had a bunch of other stuff happening, and beatball is my one true love. So everything else as far as adaptive sports is second to that.
Right. Makes sense. And hey, skating on ice is definitely different than running down the line on a field, on a beatball field. So.
Yeah. And I'll take the kids ice skating every year. We've got this great outdoor ice skating rink in town. And every year I remember that I can't skate. I can, but I can't. I'm like the dad out there who's, you can tell, isn't exactly comfortable on his skates, like doesn't quite have his center of gravity about him. So put on a bunch of pads and put a stick in my hand. It's not getting better. Yeah.
Sure. Understandable. So I know that Mind's Eye has done some stuff with the Touch 2C, this device. For blind sports fans, I know we have showcased one court here on this podcast as well. There's some others out there. I think Field of Vision is another one I've had on. But definitely curious about your experience with that device as well.
Well, first of all, how cool is it that we've got multiple companies who are vying for this coveted market of blind people going to sporting events? Like, I mean, I know there's millions of, no, I'm being funny, but I love it. Like, I love that there's so much effort and energy being put into accessibility. Like, what a great time to be visually impaired or totally blind, because, there's never, it's so neat and refreshing to see all these companies out here trying to do this. But to answer your question, the St. Louis City SC Soccer Club, started with a lot of fanfare a few years ago. They built their own stadium, Energizer Park, and I've got a couple of my former teammates, Richie Crussell and some others, who really love the soccer team and immediately bought season tickets. And so, for me and my family, it's like, all right, my youngest daughter plays soccer. I like soccer. I was never in love with it. Like, I played it in high school for a couple of years. I was okay. Good enough to start on JV, good enough to be on the bench for varsity. But there's something about a professional team being started in your hometown or your adopted hometown. And there's just so much energy around it, and you can't help but get into it, even if you aren't the biggest fan. So got to go to a few games. through Mind's Eye. Mind's Eye and the St. Louis SE club made a commitment from day one that every single home game would be accessible, would have audio description. So you can go to any game and you know that you can log in on your app on your phone and listen and have audio description. So,
wow.
Yeah, exactly. So this past March, I was invited as a part of a group of people, blind and visually impaired, to test this touch to see device. And it just happened to be on a weekend where I had my daughters. My oldest daughter had to work, so my youngest daughter got to come with me to the game, and we got to try the device out together. And it was an unbelievable device. I've done a whole interview on that St. Louis SE has put out. And it's just a neat deal to have a second input. You know, like you can feel where the ball is and you can feel where it's at on the field. And then you've got audio description in your ear telling you. So it's just it's a secondary input. So little did I know that night, and my daughter and I definitely didn't know, that they were filming us the entire time. They had us sign waivers and they're filming her and I watching this and enjoying the game. It was a 1-0 victory. It was just a lot of fun. And then after the fact, like, hey, can we come to your house and interview you and your daughter? And can you provide us pictures? And can we do this and that? And I had no idea that they were producing a 10-minute long video about, you know, because that night in March, it was the first time that there had been a touch to see device at an MLS game in North America. So it was kind of a big deal, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to going to more games and having that device. And I told someone, I said, hey, if you guys get this device and you have it here all the time, I'll consider honestly becoming a season ticket holder, just because it makes the experience that much better for me.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I mean, even just one, you know, audio description, I feel like, or the device alone is good, but having both, like you're saying, really can't beat that. So I know I did mention you're a fellow podcaster, so definitely want to talk about Beat Baseball Tonight. I was back in the day when Baseball Tonight on ESPN was on a lot more often. You know, was a big fan. I know it's
You're
been
not supposed to
scaled
connect
back
those
quite
two.
a bit.
What are you doing? You're getting me in trouble.
That's my goal.
I see what's happening here. You're eliminating the competition. No, that's awesome. So for the last few years, Richie Flores is, you know, he's the creator and host of the Beep podcast network, and you know, he's the big noise of Beat Baseball, and has done a lot of pieces like interest pieces through podcast form. And I don't know why he said yes to this, but I convinced him a couple years ago to do a year in review. And so the first year, I literally just came up with like phrases or sayings for each team. And the point was, it was supposed to be completely comical, and it was. The point was, I'm this kind of new guy to the league. I've been around 5 minutes. I cause I stir up a lot of grief on Beatball Nation. Like I don't want to get too far off track, but when we started the Archers, I didn't want to just be a new team that no one knew of, that nobody was thinking about, that we were just some new team that was supposed to show up and lose games and keep our mouth shut. I wanted to be obnoxious and loud. I wanted to call out other teams, much to the consternation of I'm not even using that word right. Much to the consternation of Mike Curtis and Jason Frazier and Orlando Gonzalez and everyone else involved in the team and some of my teammates. But it was always about having fun. And like Dustin Youngren was one of the first guys that made it a lot of fun, because he would kind of clap back with me. And so we would kind of go back and forth, and then we'd be messing each other, chuckling about how we're getting everybody all fired up. And I really just want to create some rivalries for the Archers. I wanted the Archers to have a rival team. I wanted a team that, you know, we wanted to play and we wanted to beat. And, you know, in the beginning, nothing was better than Cubs versus Cardinals. But anyways, sure. back to the Beat Ball Nation stuff. So or the Beat Baseball Tonight. So basically Richie started a couple years ago letting me do with him these year-end reviews where we rank the teams and we say funny things about them and we make fun of them a little bit. We give a couple teams some credit, but really just the big noise, just starting noise, just getting people fired up. And early on, people were mad, like, it's December. What are you guys doing? Like beat balls. And I'm like, baby, beat ball is year round. We're talking about this all the time. And
Sure.
Now 5 years later, beat ball is year round. We play beat ball year round. There was a tournament in January this year. The All-Star game those guys started was in November. Like, we're truly getting to a point where we're going to be able to play beat baseball year round. And I like to think that I'm a little part of that.
Right.
So anyway, Richie let me on his podcast. I caused a whole big thing, but people kind of loved it. It was his most listened to podcast, which I like to remind him of that a lot. And then the next year I was like, we got to step this up. So I started picking songs and doing music. And so that was even more fun because then I could pick songs that would really kind of get after teams. And man, did that work. Like, folks were fired up, the best version of that is, and I have to tell this, the Philly Fire. So for 2024, the 2023 year in review, I picked a song from Kendrick Lamar. I won't say the title or the words because it's not G-rated, but I picked a song for the Philly Fire at the end of the year, and it was I was taking a shot. And it was, I wanted to take a shot. I took a shot. It was to fire them up, and boy, did it fire them up. And so we play them in the championship game. The Archers play in the championship game, and someone runs over and turns on that song. Now I don't hear it, but between Ty and one of his teammates, and probably Casey, they made sure that song was playing right after they beat us in the World Series. But the thing that I noticed was that, I don't know if you remember this, at the banquet last year, as soon as they announced the Philly Fire as the number one team, someone turned on a stereo and they played the song that I picked for them at the year-end deal. And I stood up and clapped. I shouldn't have, because I was second place team. We're supposed to be mad. But I just thought it was the coolest thing that song fired them up so much that they thought enough about my silly little year-end in review that it was, man, that was so cool. So that was probably the kind of, and Richie and I talked about it a little bit. He was about to become president, and he knew that he wasn't going to be able to commit to the weekly podcast, or even, he kind of wanted a different voice. And, I think I was not the natural pick. I don't have the best podcast voice. My voice is definitely not nearly as awesome as yours for this stuff. But because I'm willing to say the things that other people aren't willing to say, I'm willing to stick my nose in it, if you will. I felt like he liked that a little bit, and so we could kind of, keep it going and have some fun with it. And so that's how he got me into it. And I think I always wanted to be on radio. I always wanted to be a DJ as a kid. I had a radio, probably at 6 years old, and was always listening to music and stuff like that, making my own little mixtapes and doing my own lead-ins to songs. So, I love it. And so I've got to talk to so many cool people. I've got to meet different people. And one really cool thing is, if people only take me for my posts on Beatball Nation, they assume that I'm probably not a genuine person or a nice person, or I'm just a troll. And I think one of the cool things about having the podcast is I think people get to see that I do really love this sport. I do really care. I do really want this sport to continue to grow and succeed and just be the best it can be. And so that's been one of the cool things about it, is just getting to talk to so many people from across the league and just share our love of beat baseball.
Right. That's awesome. And I've definitely caught several of your episodes, and I think you do a great job. And I think you have a really good speaking voice. So definitely don't sell yourself too short on that.
One of the things I told Richie up front, I was like, look, character pieces are fine. I'm not against them.
Sure.
But I want to talk about beat baseball. I want to talk about what's it feel like to step up to the plate knowing that you can win the game, or what's it feel like stepping up to the plate knowing you can lose the game, because if you don't score, the game's over. Like you got, so I ask people what kind of bat they like to swing. I ask them about their favorite moment. Like, I want to really get into it. And then something we've done this year that I absolutely love more than anything is breaking down the tournaments.
Right.
Either before the tournament or after the tournament. Man, that's so much fun. I keep telling Demo and his committee, I said, hey man, I'm just doing your guys' work for you. Don't worry about it. I got you. Like, in talking about the games and talking about, the scores and the ups and downs of beat baseball, like a lot of people, they just look at a score and they don't watch the tape or find out about what happened in that game, like there's so much more to it. So I think that's why I wanted it to be called Inside Beat Baseball, because I really wanted it, or Beat Baseball Tonight. Wow, listen to me. Because I really, really wanted it to be about the game. Like we're all blind, and that stuff is important. I'm not discounting that, but if it's named Beat Baseball Tonight, let's talk about beat baseball. Let's keep that the focus. Like, we can talk about anything. I talked with Zach Turner about being a dad. I mean, there's a lot of us that are dads, and I love being a dad. It's my favorite thing, literally my favorite thing. So even more than beat baseball. So, but try and always bring it back to beat baseball.
Right. Yeah. And I would say that's probably kind of a difference between my podcast and yours. I tend to be a little more broad, just kind of the whole person, the whole kind of human interest story.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Try to break it down, here and there. We definitely get into the weeds a little bit, in terms of specific games, and like you're saying, maybe the more minutia of the game, which is a lot of fun too.
Well, and to be honest, that gives you and I both a lane too, right? So that's right. Also important to me, that we're not stepping on each other's toes, and I've talked to Neil McDonald a while back. I'm like, hey man, kind of missing you. I know you've gone through some life changes and stuff, and maybe I can get him on my show again and try and get him fired up. This is funny. He lives like a mile from me now. So, he used to live on the West Coast. We live like a mile apart. But it would be great to, have his voice back again too, because he has a connection to game, times long past or whatever. Like, he has a connection that I don't have. I'm just some new guy who's been around 5 minutes. Everybody who played in the 90s and even the late 80s and even the early 2000s, they all know Neil, but I'm just some new kid on the block.
Sure. But yeah, I'm definitely with you. The more voices, the more perspectives, experiences, we can bring to the table as content creators. I'm definitely all for that.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, I don't know that I'm going to do a weekly podcast forever. Richie and I have talked a little bit about, like, how do we want this to continue to grow? Do we want to produce this more? Do we want to have, guest spots? I was trying to find a way to get Cousin or Dustin in there, because those guys are funny. Like, they're just funny. Like, how do I, just having some fun with it. I don't know that I want to turn into a 2.5 hour deal, but we try and keep it between 30 and 45 minutes, because we think that's most people's attention span. And that's kind of, yeah, but what's next? Because I can only interview so many people, right? You run out of people. So
true.
You always got to keep it fresh. And I guess I could get into your lane and start interviewing folks from other sports, but I think you do an amazing job. And so you keep doing you, and I love it. And so kind of, like you said, just all kind of do our thing, but as long as it's not the same thing, we're going to be just fine.
Exactly. Yep. And I'm curious, do you do all the editing? Do you do pretty much as far as the post-production work as well?
I do zero editing. I do zero post-production work. Ooh. Here, I can't believe I'm giving up the secret sauce here.
Hey,
but,
be careful.
I work very closely with El Presidente, and so we talk about what we want to do. We make a plan. We make outlines. But I'm just the talent, baby. I am just the on-air personality. And so, I have a lot of the ideas, and this is the direction I want to go or what I want to try. Sometimes they work. Last week, I wanted to do a live broadcast, and I had everything set up, I thought, and then I clicked go live, and it said Facebook will not allow you to do that. You don't have permission to go live on Facebook. And I'm like, what? And so just, so sometimes I have my ideas and I don't actually have the knowledge to pull them off. But Richie does all the editing. Richie cleans up a lot of stuff for me and makes everything sound amazing. He's amazing. And he's got some cool software that he uses, and I'm learning more and more. But right now we feel like it's a really good partnership, and kind of that's kind of how we do it. So yeah, I don't do anything, man. I am the one who posts it back on the Nation. So he'll tell me when it's ready to go, and then I post it everywhere. So I guess I do that part, but he does all of the heavy lifting.
Gotcha. Yup. And yeah, hey, I'm with you. I've had an editor since I started this podcast that does all the post-production work for me too. So there are a lot of talented blind and visually impaired audio editors out there, which is awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I keep telling him we need a technical intern. So I want an intern, and then I said Richie, what's it going to cost me to have the music rights for my year end stuff? Because last year's was horrible because the copyright bots found us, and they kept pulling down our posts. So then he kept editing the song down to the point where you didn't even know what song it was anymore. And I was like, this sucks. I don't like this at all. So I was like, between this year and next year, I don't know what it costs me, but there's some sort of music rights that I ought to be able to buy to be able to play 20 seconds of a song. And so that's
so much to think about. I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So before we put a bow on this episode, definitely wanted to give you a chance to mention any contact info, social media, as far as the podcast, where people can find that.
Well, we are on Facebook under Beat Baseball Tonight. That's a page that you can follow. Would love to have folks like, share, and subscribe, as the kids say. Outside of that, I don't have a lot. You can always find me, Chad Dillon. I'm on everything, Instagram and Facebook. You could even find me on Snapchat, although I haven't logged in to check it in a while, so don't expect a quick response. But I think probably in late 2025, 2026, Beat Baseball Tonight will create a YouTube page, and we'll obviously announce all that. And I think that will give us an opportunity. We did something really cool this week that I love. We had our first ever live broadcast of a Beat Baseball game. So we invited folks to come out and log into Zoom with us, and we all watched the Philly Fire game. I say Philly, yeah. The BSO Philly Fire played the Renegades last Saturday, the first leg of the Beast of the East.
That's right.
Yeah. And so we had a live broadcast. And so folks logged in. We probably had, it wasn't a lot, maybe 10, 15 at one point, but people watching it with us, Richie and I kind of talking, bantering back and forth. We had a Renegade that wasn't able to be there on the call with us. So that was fun. We definitely want to do more of that, stuff like that, where we're bringing audiences together to love the game of Beat Baseball. So yeah, who knows? That might mean a YouTube channel for us in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. And hey, if there's anything I can do on my end just to help promote those efforts, and really, really cool concept. So would love to help in any way I can.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Definitely. Yep. All right. Well, again, our guest on this episode has been Chad Dillon. And Chad, this has been a ton of fun, man. Really, really appreciate you coming on. This was long overdue, so I appreciate your patience. And just congrats on your achievements. Good luck to your lookouts here coming up at the series. And congrats on your success there with the podcast as well.
Man, Greg, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you this summer. And congrats to you as well. I know you got an award. Don't ask me the name of it, but I saw that you got an award this past year. So I'm sure more accolades are to come, man. So keep up the great work.
Cool. I appreciate that, man. Alrighty. Take it easy.
To hear more episodes of the Eyes Free Sports podcast and to subscribe, search for Eyes Free Sports on your favorite podcast platform or visit eyesfreesports.com. Be sure to follow the Eyes Free Sports podcast at facebook.com/eyesfreesports and on Twitter at Eyes Free Sports.